Today I'm pruning apricots. Anytime you're pruning a fruit tree, you need some of the basic tools for the job. This one right here is a lopper. This right here is an orchard lopper. It's got an extension reach. This guy right here is a pole saw. Folding hand saw. And the most basic of all the tools, the pruning shear. This will get you through most pruning jobs. Occasionally you might need a chainsaw or something a little larger, but this is usually all you ever need to do fruit trees. In the case of apricots, apricots come in three different forms. There are apricots that produce fruit at the tips of the branches. They're a little rare. There are apricots that produce fruit in the mid portion of the branch. There are apricots that produce fruit in the lower portion of the branch. Most of the apricots that we grow around the Bay Area here tend to be what we call mid-stem bearers. Most of the fruit comes in the middle of the growth that was produced last year. When you question where is that last year's growth located in a tree, it's always on the outside of the tree. The stuff in the center of the tree is old. The stuff on the outside of the tree is young. The diameter of the wood, new wood or last year's wood, is flexible, small, mostly not a whole lot bigger than a pencil. And so that's what we're working on mostly here. And so in the case of the apricots in the Bay Area, ours are mostly mid-stem bearers. They're varieties like Blenheim, Royal. We have some Moore Park around here. And so when we prune this tree, I'm going to leave at least half of the wood, 60% to half of the wood at the tips of the branches that grew the previous year. So in this case, I have a piece of wood coming out here, and about half of it is right there. I'm pruning to an outward facing bud. Now in the case of this piece here, it's in the way because it's crossing the other one. So we're going to take that wood out of the tree. Like that. Okay, now we only have two branches at the end. This bit here is probably getting a little too far out from the tree too, so it's going to go back to here. And then on all stone fruits, anytime we're doing peaches, plums, cherries, nectarines, apricots, pluots, always the center of the tree is opened. We want the middle of the tree to look like a mixing bowl. And so I usually start by clearing the middle of the tree. Usually a tool like this one might work for that job. Keeps me out here. And I start off just by taking out all that stuff that grew right up the middle. Next I'm going to grab my lopper right here. And I'm going to step into the core of the tree. I was using the pole lopper before because there's all this stuff underneath this side. Now I can get right on top of my work, get in here. This is much easier to use this tool. Okay, so this is a little hard to show off. Standing inside a tree, trying to show you how it's empty in the center. Now, I'd almost need a helicopter to make this shot for you because you really can't see it from the outside. But I am standing in the middle of the tree at the moment. These are the main branches, here, 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 and so on. And if we look up through the center, we see nothing but clear blue sky. If we look around the edges of the tree, we see another angle on it. Okay, so what I did was I went inside this tree and I cleared out everything that was growing up through the middle so that the entire inside of the tree is open to sunlight. You can see how the sun's sparkling in there on the nice fall leaves. This will allow this tree to fruit both on the inside and the outside. If you allow the center of an apricot to close up, it's only going to fruit on the outside, and you're only going to get a portion of what you could have gotten out of the tree. So now the next thing to do is to walk around the tree, and I'm going to start thinning branches. I'm going to start clearing crossing branches, and I'm also going to start to remove some of the upright branches. I'm going to shorten the outside growth so the tree stays closer to the center. Branch here heading a little bit too far out and too far down. It's also layered with this branch here. So I'm going to take the lower one off, just to allow it to walk around the bottom of the tree. Okay, and then I'm going to go through on all of these, and I'm going to shorten them back by about 40 to 50%. Now, right here, you can see at the tip of this branch, the buds are only single buds. That means this is not a tip-bearing apricot. As we come down to the center of the branch, what we see is the buds are actually doubles and triples. Most of the triple buds on this tree are in the middle area of the branch. The lower buds, again, go back to single buds. They will not be very fruitful. Most of the fruit on last year's growth is going to come on these double buds in the middle of the tree. And by pruning to an outward facing bud at the middle of the branch, leaving 50 to 60% of last year's wood on the tips, you're going to have the most fruitful buds right out at the edge of the tree, so you'll get the most fruit. If you left the entire branch in place, what will happen is you'll get fruit all the way to the tip, but the fruit will be small instead of larger. The fruit will also overweight the branches and want to make them break like that, because apricot is not very strong. And so you have to shorten the wood up to limit the amount of fruit. Okay, so that is what I'm doing right now, is just shortening all this fruiting wood up, so it makes less fruit, bigger fruit, better fruit. Okay. I've got to pull the tree inward. As you can see here, I've shortened the length of that branch so the tree comes inward. Alrighty. That's important. Driving the tree inward every year is a very important part of this. I'm also seeing here I have some branches that are hooking back inside the tree. We don't want those. This is growing back to the center of the tree. That's not good. Apricots also fruit on short-lived fruiting spurs. Cherries make fruiting spurs, plums make them, apples make them, pears make them, but all those trees, the spurs live for a long time. On apricots, they don't live very long, just a few years. But I took this branch down intentionally just because it has a few of these fruiting spurs. See, these are buds that have actually grown out into short little twigs. These also produce fruit on older wood. So the wood out here is the wood that grew this last season. The wood in here is wood that grew the previous season. That wood will still contain fruiting spurs that will make apricots. And so we're paying attention to those two. We're trying to keep the wood sort of recycled so we don't have anything out in the outside canopy that's really going back more than a couple of years. We drive everything older than that back to the middle of the tree. We want wood that's 1 and 2 years old out there, because most of that fruit will come on last year's growth, and some of it will come on spurs on the year before. Get some of these down here. That's easier to do. So let's get these extra pieces of wood off. There we go. Yep, looking good. Alright. Now I look up top in the canopy here, and I'm saying that this wood here getting too far from the tree, and so I'm going to remove this part of it. It's going to start to break if we're not careful. There we go. Yes, that's nice. Okay, then this one's going into the tree, so I'll take that back. Now I'll shorten these. Okay. Always shortening here to the outward facing buds. Buds pointing away from the direction of the branch. Well, not counter to it. If you prune counter to it, everything will turn into the middle of the tree, and that kind of makes a mess out of stuff. Hard to fix it the next year. Okay. So finding yourself a nice orchard lopper will make your life a lot easier. The one I'm using here is Japanese made. It's called an Astron. That doesn't translate very well, I guess, into English. Astron. Sounds like something from, what do you call it, South Park. Wood in the core of the tree there. Alright, so now I'm pretty much just shortening over here and thinning some. That's crossing through, we don't want that. Cutting most of these branches from last year directly below where they begin to fork, because I don't want them branching up at that elevation. I want to keep most of the branching down lower in the tree. Okay, so right here, what I have is a blighted twig. Apricots are susceptible to a few different types of diseases that will kill the branches and also brown rot the fruit. In this case, this is what we call twig blight and fruit brown rot. You'll see right here, there was one little fruiting spur with yellow leaves on it there that was still alive down at the base. But if we look hard at the rest of this, see here, dead leaves on the end, and the bark is shriveled. There's also this mark in the bark here. This is twig blight, and twig blight kills wood in apricots. You can take it out of the tree any time that you see it. I highly recommend that. Also, it will spread to the fruit once the fruit's set, and then you end up with fruit brown rot, the brown rot in the apricots. So it's the same disease, fruit and twigs, kills both. Pruning it out of the tree anytime you find it is a good idea, and then otherwise controlling it by a spray of copper. When I get done pruning over here, the next step will be to spray the tree with the copper spray and oil. The oil will kill insects and fix the copper to the tree. The copper will kill the diseases that are on the wood that cause this. Some people like to use sulfur or lime sulfur in fruit trees. Don't do that on apricots. It will burn up all the buds, okay, and you won't get any fruit. Well, there we go. Finished. We have cleared the center of the tree. We've reduced the length of the branches by cutting the tree backwards into the center. We have pruned all of last year's wood back to right around half of its length so that we've got the most fruitful buds right on the outsides. We've conserved some of the older fruiting spurs. I also pruned away some of the older wood to help renew more fruiting spurs. We're pretty much done here. All we need to do at this point, make sure that I've pruned all of the cankers and all of the twig blights out of the tree. Look around the tree to see if there's any sap, any dead branches, any dead leaves hanging in the tree. Right now, with the leaves still on the tree, it's really easy to see the twig blights because there'll be brown leaves against the nice colored fall leaves here. You don't have to worry about there being leaves in the tree. These leaves are getting ready to give up. As you can see, they're falling everywhere. And so they're basically non-functional, just still sort of hooked. It makes it a little hard to prune the tree. It's easier to prune the tree when the leaves are down because you can see it. But unfortunately in California, if the rains come at the same time that the leaves fall from the apricots, and if the tree is wet when I prune, I'm spreading the diseases through the tree. Because it's high and dry right now, the diseases don't spread. So sometimes we have to prune with the leaves on. It doesn't matter. Okay, just make sure that if you get a rainy climate in the winter like we have here, you'll want to prune before the rains come. It's important. October to November, real good times for doing this. Other than that, I'm going to follow this with a spray of copper and oil on the tree, and we're ready for next year. Happy gardening, and thanks for watching Apricot Pruning.